Hey, welcome back to Cedar Studios. Recently I did a video where I showed you how to use Astro, which is a static site builder, and CodeStitch, which is a component library in HTML and CSS, and how to build a landing page in under 10 minutes. And that got some good response, so today I'm going to show you how to use Astro to make CodeStitch even better by breaking down CodeStitch components into their own Astro components. And I'll show you what I mean. So I've picked out a stitch from CodeStitch that I like. It's a review section. And I have an Astro project over here, just an empty one. I just configured it. All it does is it just says Astro here. And you can see from the markup over here. So what I'm going to do first is just like the last time, I'm going to take this code. I'm going to grab the HTML. I'm going to put it right here. And now if we go to here, okay. We have all the structure, but none of the styles. So let's go back to CodeStitch, grab the CSS. Remember with Astro, just in the same file, we can add a style tag and put in all that stuff. Now these are styled up, but something still looks a little wrong compared to here. And that's because we don't have CodeStitch's core styles, which designates primary color, etc. So we'll copy this. We'll just go ahead and paste it in this same style tag at the top. And there we go. Now it's all styled. Looks a little different. Looks like it's the font. So if I wanted to get close to this, I could do in the body tag here in CSS, I could do font family, and then I do this little trick. This is a ordering of fonts and fallbacks. That's pretty common just to get the system font going, and it's sans serif. So that slightly different, but looks pretty much the same. So it's good enough for now. So this is what I showed in the last video, and this is great, but look at all this HTML. What happens if I want to update the text here? I'm going to have to go searching for it, right? Wouldn't it be nice if each one of these cards were broken down into their own component and I could handle those like I would in a popular framework like React? Well, we're going to do exactly that with Astro, and we're not going to need any React, any JavaScript whatsoever, but we're going to get that great developer experience from JSX. So, looking at this a little more closely, I see there's a section, which is going to be this entire thing here in the gray. And then there's the title, and then there's an unordered list, and then each one of these list items is going to be another review card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder in my source folder called components, and I'm going to make a new file called review card.astro. Now in here, what I'm going to do is in the front matter, which runs when the static site builds, is I'm going to define some properties that are going to be passed from my page into my component. So what am I going to need for this card? I'm going to need an image and some text for the review, and they have a name, and then they have a title. So name and title, and we're going to set that equal to astro.props. So the properties, just like in React, is going to come when I pass them in through my page to my component. So now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to grab one of these cards. So it's this entire list item here. Copy it, paste it in here, and now all I need to do is simply swap out these hard-coded values for these variables. Okay, so for the image, I'll make the source image. For the text, that's right here, I'll add that as text, just in these curly braces. And I'll do the same for the name and the title. Okay, that looks great so far. Now, in here, I think what I'll do is I'll take this section and I'll copy it. And I'll put it down here, and I'll call this reviews from component. And I'll just duplicate this. So now we have two of these. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove these cards by removing the list items. I'm going to add in my component. So I'm going to import it. And now it's going to need its properties. So the first was an image. So I'm going to need to download this image. Review 1, that's fine. Now I'm going to put this in my folder. I'm going to make a new folder actually called Assets. It's something I typically do when building a website. I'm going to drop this picture in here. And so what I can do at the top in this front matter is I can import this image as review 1 from assets/reviewer1 PNG. And then for the image, I can just pass this in like this. I can also run the import statement in here, which maybe I'll do that, just so I don't have to mess with the front matter. There. Now, I don't need a statement up there. I can just do it right in line here. I also needed some text, so that would be this. I need a name. And you see I'm just passing these in as properties like you would do in something like React, but I haven't installed React. This is all just vanilla HTML at this point. And then I need a title, which will be Senior Executive. And then I can close off this tag. And something's going to break. It's because of the image. I'm going to need to go in here, and instead of using a regular image tag, I'm going to use Astro's image tag. Because I didn't pass in a string, I passed in like an imported image object. So now this should just work fine. I see. I just misspelled this. It's not review or 1, it's just review 1. Okay. And there we go. We have the component. So I've got all the data in here now. I just need to style it. Okay, well, how do I style this? Well, I can just take the CSS, and in my component, I can add it in here and hit save. Now this doesn't work. Why is that? Because CodeStitch by default scopes everything to a section ID. Well, all I have to do then is select this section ID, delete it from all of these class names, and now it's perfectly styled. You'll notice that, of course, the CSS applies not only to the card itself, but to this container up here. So if I really wanted to be minimizing code, what I could do is I could take out, the container, the content, the title, and then we get into the card group. I'm probably going to want to leave that in. So that's one media query. Then down here, the container, remove that again, and boom. CodeStitch is, once you get the hang of how the CSS is organized, it's pretty easy just to do that. Okay, so coming back here, now I have a section where I just have 3 review cards, and instead of each review card being 20, 30 lines long and it being hard to find stuff, in this code each one is a custom component, and I'm just passing in the data, and each card is only a few lines long, and this is much easier to read. So we could stop here, or we could take this a step further and generate it with data, and instead of writing the review card 3 times, just do it once. So here's how we would do that. First, we would want a data file that's going to have our 3 images, reviews in text, the names, the titles, etc. So I'm going to create a new folder called data. I'm going to add in something called reviews.json, and I'm going to extend it with TypeScript. That'll allow me to do some stuff in there. That's pretty cool. So this will export basically like a JSON file. But because it's TypeScript, I'll make a variable called reviews, and this will be an array, and each array will have an object, or each member of the array will have an object that needs to have these properties: image, text, name, and title. So the image, I will do this same import statement. And I'm going to put these side by side just so it's easier to grab. Bring that back. And now I just need to format this and JSON. So colons instead of equal signs and commas. Pretty easy. Okay, that's formatted correctly. Now let's go back to the page. I'm going to do this one more time where I copy the entire section and paste a new version down here, and we'll call this from JSON. And now what I'm going to do is at the top, I'm going to import the data file. So I'm going to import reviews, which is the variable, from data/reviews.json. I don't need to put the TS here because it's just exporting basically as a JSON. Then what I'm going to do is in my unordered list, I'm going to fence in some code. This is what Astro allows you to do, and it's great. I'm going to take that reviews variable and map it, because it's an array, and treat one review at a time. And then in here, I'm going to return a review card. So I can delete these now. And instead of putting each individual property, I can just spread in the props like this. So if we come down here to the bottom, now I see that I have the properties of this card and everything's styled perfectly with just a single line of code. And here, if I copy this, I can add as many as I want. We'll start with just 3. Boom, now we have 3. Okay, so I can now edit my reviews if I want to edit someone's name or title. It's a very clean file in which I do that, in my data file. In my page, look how I went from this section, which goes, about 100 lines worth of code, down to 10 lines worth of code. And I can map multiple cards just with one single line of code. Look how clean that is. And then of course, everything's getting styled in here. So this is my favorite way to take CodeStitch components, boil them down to very little HTML, and now you can see everything I showed you before, where there was 100 lines here and you had to scroll, scroll, scroll. Now my entire review section is just this long. All right, if you like this and you want to see more stuff like this, please leave me a comment and let me know, and I'll make you some more videos.